Now that you've structured the memoir as a whole, let's look at how each scene within that memoir should be constructed. It starts with the opening scene. It's so easy to begin a memoir with large chunks of backstory. Unfortunately, that's a sure recipe for a reviewer to mark it DNF, did not finish. Opening scenes are particularly important because this is what an agent reads, this is what a publisher reads, and this is what a reader reads. The agent or publisher will ask you for the first few chapters of your book when they decide whether or not to make you an offer. If you're publishing independently, most vendors allow the reader to preview the first few pages of your book. So the opening scene is critical, and there's more of a formula to it than you might think. The scene construction worksheet is attached. This will help you brainstorm and help you nail down the reason you're including the scene. Each scene needs to contribute to the narrative and to the theme that you've established. So once you've chosen your scenes and preferably put them in the right order to fulfill the plot arc, then comes constructing the actual scene itself. Each scene should include a healthy mix of dialogue, description, exposition or backstory, and action. To put it in film terms, where is the camera pointing? Pretend it's a movie. If the camera is simply pointed at you, the author, as you recite your memories, you're doing it wrong. You want the camera pointed at the scene itself, at your past self, at your family members, at the surroundings, at least most of the time. A good balance of a scene is 70% action, 30% exposition. Let's compare a scene, two scenes actually, written about the same things, but in different styles. First, here's an example of a scene where the camera is pointed at the narrator. The worst part was when I had to watch the home security tapes of my parents' final argument. Dad had gone on this tirade about how I really wasn't his kid, so he didn't want me anymore. My mom had not only humiliated him by having an affair with his brother, but now he'd spent 14 years paying for his brother's kid. My mom tried hard to convince him not to leave me in foster care, but it was like the last 14 years hadn't happened. He was done with my mom, and he was done with me. That's not bad. The sadness of the story makes an impact, and we feel bad for the narrator. But it's not being told in narrative style. The camera is fully on the narrator. Let's see what it looks like when we turn that camera around and focus on the scene itself. Shameful tears filled my mother's eyes. "You were always gone," she choked out. "Yeah, I was gone, getting overtime pay in a gang-infested ghetto so you could keep teaching instead of using your engineering degree for something useful. You know, because it's your passion." The hatred and disgust on my father's face made me cry as hard as my mother. Both of us doubled over with the force of our tears. "As far as I'm concerned, she can stay in foster care," Dad said, swatting his hand as if a fly was in his face. "It's not her fault. It's mine. Divorce me, but don't leave her there to get molested." "Screw you." He jabbed his finger at her with each syllable. "I am done investing in your bastard. She's your daughter, not mine. If you want her back, then take her back. Ask Aaron for money. I'm sure he'd be happy to take money away from his real family and give it to you." He pulled a drawer out of the dresser and emptied its contents onto the already massive pile of my mother's clothes on the bed. "You can have her, but don't you dare come at me for child support. You try to take even 1 penny of my money, and I swear I'll sue you and him for paternity fraud. Even if the courts don't give it to me, everyone will know what you are. Everyone will know what he is." The threat of public shaming silenced my mother. Her chin quivered as she visibly struggled for some retort, something that would change his mind. But there was nothing. Mom was a teacher at a Catholic school, and Uncle Aaron was a school board member who gave motivational speeches on marriage for his church. The look of triumph on Dad's face made me want to puke. From a very young age, I'd always known never to get between him and money. If he gave me 50 cents for a candy bar, and it only cost 47, he'd best have 3 pennies in his hand when I got home. Now he'd spent 14 years and who knows how many thousands of dollars on his brother's child. It was easy for him to throw me away. A simple math equation. I'm sure the difference is obvious. Though you communicated the same information, the delivery was different. In the first example, we're just listening to a friend tell us a story. In the second, we're actually there, watching the action unfold and hearing the words they say as she watches the security camera. It can be scary to write a scene like this because our memories don't record the exact words. But don't let this stop you. All memoirs have a disclaimer at the beginning, attesting that though all events are factual, some quotes may be misremembered. This is a given. As long as you capture the spirit of the actual conversation, and especially how you were feeling at that time, then you've done it right. Depending on your writing style, you may use dialogue more sparingly than you would in a novel. I recommend selecting published memoirs similar to what you want to write about, and to get an idea of how much or how little you should include as far as the dialogue is concerned. Even if you have to paraphrase the dialogue or fictionalize it entirely to mask someone's identity, read it out loud to yourself to make sure that it sounds like something a person would actually say. We are all consumers of old, feel-good TV, which probably had bad, schlocky dialogue. Like it or not, we absorb those speaking styles, and it comes out strong in new writers, even those who are writing nonfiction. So read it aloud to keep unrealistic or hammy dialogue out of your final draft. Another important part of each scene is description. When writing a scene, there is something that new writers do called talking head syndrome. It's when a scene includes some dialogue and some action, but no real indication is given of the space that the characters are inhabiting. What does the house look like? How does it smell? It might not occur to you to describe these things. After all, you know them so well. But unless you're documenting your life exclusively for family and friends who, like you, are very familiar with these settings, you need to tell us about the space and the culture of the community. Your conservative small town in Louisiana may as well be a foreign country to a reader who lives on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. It's important that you impress upon the reader what your whole world was like, even mentioning the type of lip gloss you wore to establish a time and place. 90s kids like me have fond memories of our glittery, sticky Bonnie Bell lip gloss. It came in several fragrances, but I wore vanilla. And I swear, if I think about it, I can still smell it. For my father, the smell of Sanka used to drive him to excitement because it meant that his mother had company and that there would be snacks available, snacks he would normally not be allowed. These sensory details will create camaraderie with readers from a similar background to you and create immersion for those who don't. As you're constructing your scene, keep in mind a list of quick do's and don'ts. Don't confuse a memoir with psychotherapy. Doing a deep dive into a violent or traumatizing event with painstaking detail will likely not have a positive outcome for your reader. It may be important for your therapist or for the SVU detective to hear every detail, but your reader doesn't need to. Do remember that memoirs, like novels, exist to entertain. Even if the subject is largely sad, as in the well-known memoir Angela's Ashes, your reader has chosen your book for entertainment. So when constructing your scene, evaluate the entertainment and the emotional value of it. If you can inject humor, something I am notoriously bad at, and by all means do so. Don't simply publish your journal. Our diaries or journals have great meaning to us, but they're full of details that only matter to us. Using a journal as source material is an excellent idea to help you remember things afresh, but don't publish it as a memoir. Don't include every detail. This is especially true if you're chronicling something like an illness, or if you're praising people who helped you along the way. Every little thing that happened to you doesn't necessarily belong in the book. Don't be afraid to write multiple drafts of one scene. Polish your creative writing skills by trying out different styles of a scene, seeing which one works best for you. And, like fiction, I also recommend working with a writer's group or a critique partner to get feedback. Even short scenes contribute to the overall structure of your novel and are all important. Treat them as such and structure them with care.